in case that embarrassing loss to Dallas just wasn't enough, there's more. There's more to look into. We've had people arguing that it was Jalen's fault. We had people arguing it was injuries. We've had people saying Nick Sirianni. So I wanted to dive a little bit deeper, and I noticed that we are on pace to break a record, guys. But it is not one that we will be proud of.
Eagles fans everywhere, this is for
Yeah.
you.
Fly Eagles flying, you on the team. Touchdown, touchdown. Time to get Jalen this ring. You don't really want to start a thing. This a bird gang nation, baby. It's a Philly thing. Hater, and you looking like you type trash. I'm just here calling on Philly the podcast. And we can call a man dog or watch Miles score off the handoff. Rest of the division, your man soft. Jackson like Sean, hunting like Randall. Season here, really time to do them in. Your boy Philly Fresco. Thanks for tuning in.
What is going on, you guys? It's your boy Joe Castro, aka Philly Fresco, and it is Philly the podcast. So today I was going through the Twitter sphere, looking at articles, looking at some stats, seeing what was going on. And something that jumped out at me was from Brandon Lee Godwin and Bleeding Green Nation. So I wanted to talk about it and then just kind of give my thoughts on it. But before we do that, be sure to hit that like, hit that subscribe. We are on the road to 3K. We would love for you guys to join the ride. But let's get into this, man. So the Eagles, as I said in the opening, and it's probably going to be in the title, they are on pace to break a record. Now, usually when you hear that, you get a little bit excited, right? But this is not a good record. The record that they are on pace to break is the most penalties, in a season. It's about a 10-year-old record now. I believe the last time was about 10 years ago, like I said, and I think it was the Raiders, and they had about 160. So we're right now sitting at 35 penalties. Now, technically we had 37, but I think like two of them were just not accepted if I'm not mistaken. So we have 35 accepted penalties. Right? We all know about, Derek Barnett's, but if you look at it, they're all discipline stuff. It's all offsides. It's, not being in the right position, not having enough men or too many men on the field. It's all stuff that has to be worked on from the top down. I can sit here and blame certain players and everything, but if you're not disciplined, I put that on the coaching staff. I put this on Nick Sirianni. Nick, you want to be out there and you want to be their friend, but you have to settle these guys down. The fact that we are literally I think this is, I want to say this is the most in about 4 or 5 years. I was looking at a bunch of numbers, so I have a lot of numbers in my head, but this is like the most in like 4 or 5 years, 13th most in NFL history to start through your first 3 games. Again, 35 is just ridiculous, and we've seen it. And not only are they bonehead mistakes, but they're drive killers. They're series killers. It's tough, man. And I feel like it's mostly on this offense. The defense has their fair share. Obviously, we know with Derek Barnett. We know that, there's been a couple of, I won't say, ticky-tack, but, there's been some fouls from Kayvon, stuff like that. So it is what it is, but it's mostly on this offense. And it's mostly on the timing and discipline, right? Because if you look at these too many men downfield, or illegal man downfield, I should say, that's timing. That's timing between your quarterback and your wide receivers and your line. That's what that is. You have to get it out of your hand in a certain amount of time, or else that play is dead. We've continuously said this, and I put that on Hurts, but at the same time, that's on the coaching staff. Look, we are not a disciplined team. We saw it against the Cowboys. We saw it against the San Francisco 49ers, and we definitely saw it against Atlanta, man. It has been ugly. It has been ugly, and I've been nervous, because we came into that first game and I was happy that we won it, but I looked at all those penalties and I continuously said we're not going to win many games when we make that many mistakes. And look what's happening. So I hope that we can figure this out, but it's not giving me good vibes. It is really not giving me good vibes. Now, another thing I want to talk about is Landon Dickerson. Landon Dickerson, I believe, has had 70 snaps and has given up already 9 pressures. I believe he's ranked as the worst right guard right now in the NFL. I know it's only 2 games, technically like 1.5, if that. But man, this is getting scary, man. You know, do you want to move Nate Herbig over there? Do you move Jack Driscoll over there? You know, do you just stay with Landon Dickerson? I assume that they're gonna just stick it out with Landon Dickerson and try and figure it out. But another, you know, something that's actually good on this offensive line is that our two highest rated offensive linemen were Andre Dillard and Jason Kelsey. Nobody's surprised about Jason Kelsey, but I know a lot of people were nervous about Andre Dillard. And I said it before, and you know, look, he didn't have an amazing game. He did not, by any stretch of the imagination, this whole offensive line was kind of getting eaten up. But you know, Andre Dillard showed to me what I thought he could, and he's a solid left tackle. You know, maybe he's somebody that you can kind of dangle in front of a Jaguars, and maybe you can get a Miles Jack. You know, maybe you have to put a little bit more. Maybe I'm not sure about that. But at the end of the day, he gave himself a little bit of value. Maybe you dangle him in front of some teams that are a little bit tackle needy, which I think is most NFL teams. Everybody will take a good tackle. So I think that's a positive. But at the end of the day, and what this is really realistically all about is that this team needs to get their ish together, and they need to get their heads out their backside. Because realistically, to be this undisciplined is worse than to be bad. I'd rather just be bad. I'd rather it, you know, us not continuously shoot ourselves in the foot, but we realize, hey, we're just not talented enough to play these teams. I really do feel like, and look, the game is the game. We lost that game to the Cowboys. We can't go back. Same thing with San Francisco. But I feel like if you take away those penalties, a number of those penalties, regardless of what the game plan was, if you take away a majority of those penalties, you're in these games. You know, these are games that you can win. So I don't know if I'm 100% saying, hey, you know, I don't think that this team is devoid of talent. I don't think that this coaching staff is absolutely, you know, as dumb as they're looking. I think that they just need to get their heads out of their rear ends and stop trying to be a coach and a team that appeases the fans. Go out there and win. That's all you have to do. You just got to go out there and win. I know it sounds, you know, easier said than done, right? But I think we have the talent. Losing Brandon Graham proved to be a lot worse than I thought it would even be, to be honest. We need to get Ryan Kerrigan going. These linebackers need to actually start being linebackers for once. But, you know, it starts somewhere, right? We have to start somewhere. And for me, it's the discipline. For me, even if we go out next week and we get blown out by Kansas City, if we can, you know, limit these not turnovers, if we can limit these mistakes, all these, you know, penalties, unnecessary penalties, then I'll be a little bit happier. Let's start taking baby steps. Let's start taking those steps, because realistically, we are not going to learn anything if we continuously shoot ourselves in the foot. Because, you know, I've talked to a lot of people, and every time that we have that conversation of what we see in Jalen Hurts, it goes back to the coaching staff. So we have to be able to individually, you know, assess what these guys are. And realistically, the only way we can do that, even through bad game plans, even through bad play calling, is by the players on the field executing to their best ability. You know, because then we can say, hey, listen, this is on Nick. Nick, you got to fix this. Obviously, we want him to run the ball more, but we don't know what's going on with these play designs if it's bad play calling, because realistically, the guys just aren't executing the plays. You know, we can say that it's bad play calling because of the lack of run, right? I'm saying more so, are these bad plays? We've seen, I looked at some of the All-22, and we've seen wide receivers, tight ends, even running backs running wide open as wide receiver options, and the ball's just not getting to them. So, look, there's a lot going on, and like I said, there's a lot that we can nitpick at and get upset about and want to see change, but we got to start somewhere. So if the Eagles aren't a team that can make a huge leap, then at least give me some baby steps. Give me a baby step. Let's just get more, let's lock in against the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's not make mistakes on our end that will determine the game. If we're going to lose, let's lose because we lost a football game, not because the refs were consistently throwing flags on us. And I'm not saying that it's the refs' fault. At the end of the day, you can't put yourself in that position that refs decide the game. So that's really all I'm looking for. I'm looking for more discipline, and that'll help me kind of read what's going on a little bit more on the field. But you guys let me know what you're thinking, and I want to ask you a question. Leave me your answer in the comments. What do you think is Jalen Hurts' best attribute right now? What is Jalen Hurts' best attribute? Let me know in the comments. Other than that, y'all know what it is, man. It is Fly Eagles Fly, and we are out here.
Eagles fans everywhere, this is for
Yeah.
you.
Fly Eagles flying on the team. Touchdown, touchdown. Time to get Jalen this ring. You don't really want to start a thing. This a bird game nation, baby. It's a Philly thing. Hater, and you looking like you type trash. I'm just here calling with Philly the podcast. And we can call a man dog or watch Miles score off the handoff. Rest of the division, your man saw Jackson like Sean, hunting like Randolph. Season here, early time to do 'em in. Your boy Philly Fresco. Thanks for tuning in.